Hey,
Hello, how we doing?
doing yourself, Emma?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking.
Thanks for the time. I appreciate it. Won't keep you for too long, but want to talk about the new album and the show coming up and look in the rearview mirror a little bit,
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
being in the car. But
Yeah.
first, I'm going to start off a little bit selfishly. You guys being from Portland, Oregon, I'm a SoCal native my whole life, and I'm a massive craft beer fan. And I'm dying to
hmm
get to Portland because I know that's one of the capitals, but I'm also kind of like the Wicked Witch of the West. I hate the rain. Like I kind of melt when it rains. So is there like a perfect time frame to go to Portland where I can avoid the rain?
June,
June. Okay.
June and July and August, but I can tell June, there's always a chance. But July, August, it's going to be hot. So I always recommend that, or actually, I don't know. I guess anytime from like June through end of September, because fall in the Northwest is my favorite. So if you get to check it out at the end of September, you should.
And anything else besides the craft beer that I need to see while I'm in Portland? Is there anything else? Any good rock clubs or anything?
There's stuff. Uh, it's kind of a towny place, honestly. Lots of good dive bars, lots of really good food.
Hmm.
And then it's just a beautiful place, waterfalls and mountains near the city. So there's a lot to do, mostly outdoorsy stuff.
A lot of nature then. Okay, so craft beer and nature.
That's the whole vibe.
Beautiful. Well, I can't tell you, I've been listening to the hell out of the new album, Symptoms of Survival, nonstop. Great album, great flow to it. And I'm kind of curious because this is album number two. And they always say that, artists have their whole life to write album number one. And so I'm curious. They always talk about the sophomore jinx or the sophomore slump. Clearly not the issue for you. But how quickly did you guys start writing new song ideas? Because the first album, Fragments of a Bitter Memory, only came out 2 years ago. So imagine you got to it pretty quickly. Or were there leftover riffs and ideas from the first album?
No, we just started fresh essentially. We put out fragments on October 1st of 2021, and we were in the studio writing the the sequel on the 1 year anniversary. So we got around to it probably 7 months after the record came out. We started getting together ideas and writing it. So we didn't really waste any time there.
And you were also on the road at that time too. So were you writing and while you were out on the road? And I think so. If that lines up, probably about the time you're out with Limp Bizkit, right?
Yeah, so we don't really write on the road, but we would just go home and then go while we were home, go to the studio and do our pre-pro there. Just because it's so hard, I'm sure, as you know, to kind of compartmentalize yourself, especially on tour in that way,
Yeah.
as you can imagine. So
Yeah.
but yeah.
And I imagine lyrics always come last, right? You just like keep a notebook kind of going.
Kind of. We mapped out like what it was that we wanted to talk about topic wise.
Hmm.
So it was easy to like be like, okay, like here's 15 ideas of stuff we want to talk about and then go from there. And a lot of the writing does happen in studio, but there were a few songs that I prepared before we got in there.
So you had a little bit of a template to work off of rather than a blank canvas.
Yeah, it makes it much easier.
Well, I knew we were off to a good start when the first single, when we heard Torn from Your Silhouette. I was like, okay, good old Dying Wish. And it just got better from there. The title track, I mean, even the one I've been tripping out on the most is the ballad, Paved in Sorrow, and kind of dedicated to your younger sister.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of, it's a complicated song, but I wanted to kind of also try and generalize it as to like when you get separated from someone or you feel like you kind of fail them a little bit to try to like remedy that mistake, I guess.
It felt like parent. It felt like like a parent's perspective when I was first listening to it and getting into the lyrics. And I was like, wow, Emma already has a child. But then after learning some more, it's more about your sister who you kind of raised or felt like you should have raised more.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm 9 and some change, like almost 9.5 years older than her. Um, and so essentially we have different dads, but
Right.
so I was almost 10 when she was born. So I did raise her quite a bit, but once our parents got separated, custody things happen, and
Sure.
she went and lived in Arizona in a while, and so I kind of missed out on a lot of her growing up in some ways. So that's essentially what it's about.
Well, it's interesting from my perspective because I was that younger sibling and kind of in the same. So it's kind of interesting to get that other side of the coin, like almost my older brother's perspective. You're saying the same kind of thing. So it's a trip to have that from the other side of view. But like I said before, too, killer album, Symptoms of Survival. Even the title track is great, and that's really what it's all about: is surviving this crazy world that we're in, especially these days.
Especially, yeah, and it was so much so when we wrote the record, but everything happening over the last month, it just made it so much more like relevant, and I couldn't believe it because I was like, oh wow, like what a powerful time for all of this to come out, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, and in getting into the show, we got you in Southern California here at Chain Reaction coming up on December 2nd. Already sold out with Boundaries, Foreign Hands, and Roman Candles, and you got to be obviously pumped for the show.
Yeah, that show is going to be really awesome, and I'm hoping that the show on December 1st sells out at midnight hour too. Because we played there in 2021 in the small room on like 3 days notice one time. And then of course we've played Chain Reaction like a ton. But yeah, that show sold out in like 2 days, and that is going to be a really big milestone for us as a band.
Awesome, and getting to stretch your wings and probably play more off of the new album than you have.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we're on day 2 of our headliner right now, and we're playing a lot of new stuff. So hopefully by then people know more of the words than they do now.
Yeah, and it'd be imagine pretty good balance then of both of the first two albums then for the set.
Yeah, we toured so much off the first record that there's songs that we're definitely tired of playing. So, but we play the hits off of Fragments.
And any experience, or are you out on the road with the lineup that's going to be there, or is it just local bands for that date?
For which date?
For the Chain Reaction, for the other bands, Boundaries and Foreign Hands and Roman Candle? Is that a tour
Oh
package,
yeah.
or are they just locals?
It's the tour package.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be awesome.
And speaking of shows, you just got back from the Lamb of God cruise. How was that?
Yes, we did.
Tell me about that experience.
It was the hands down not only the best artist experience I've ever had, but just like the best like experience overall of anything in my life. It was so incredible, and I come from we come from like a hardcore background, and we've done metal tours and stuff, but just like the community and the camaraderie that everyone on this boat and all of the respect that they had for each other, it was really like such a beautiful thing to see.
Now, I'm curious for my own personal benefit again, selfishly, were you there when Randy was dressed up like Elvis marrying a couple? Those are my friends, Ro and Bick, who he married on the ship. Were you there for that wedding ceremony?
I wasn't, but I heard about it, and I did see him dressed up as Elvis, and I thought that was adorable. But yeah, no, that was so cool. Congratulations to your friends. I looked at my partner and I was like, maybe we should get married on this boat. I don't know.
Yeah, it was cool to see all the photos. I was so bummed I couldn't be there, and then I saw all the face paint that came out the day afterwards for the Dia de los Muertos. Did you participate in that as well?
I did not. There was a face painting booth, but they were busy that day for sure.
And then who did you get to play with on the boat? Because I saw it was only like 2 3 bands a night, or at different times.
Um, well, there was so many stages that like we only every stage had like 2 bands playing a day or something like that. We hung out with Malevolence and Gate Creeper and Bleed from Within and Fit for an Autopsy. Those were the bands that we probably hung out with the most. And we kind of all were like playing on the same stages as well. So that was cool.
Awesome. I got to make it out to one of those cruises one of these. Did you get any motion sickness or any of that happening or no?
No, it's definitely apparent you're on a boat. But I didn't get sick personally.
So no issues in that department for you.
No, and I didn't like wear a bracelet or the ear thing or even take Dramamine. I just kind of dealt with it.
Nice, nice. Pretty cool to have a vacation and get to play at the same time. It's like a work vacation for you.
Yeah, I kept saying I can't believe we're getting paid to be here.
And I started to touch on it earlier, and interesting to go back to that time, that Limp Bizkit tour. We had you in our market, May 31st, Toyota Arena in Ontario, and I'm lots of questions about that tour. A, were you like, WTF, why are we on this tour to begin with? Or was it something that you sought out going, hey, you know what? Even though we don't necessarily sonically sound like them, there's a lot to learn from a guy like Fred Durst.
Oh, I mean both. It was very much like, what are we doing here? Um, their fans, I think they got it, some of them, and if they didn't, they were like, okay, yeah, whatever. But we definitely learned a lot from, just watching them play every night and how pro they are. They don't play to any tracks. They don't play the same. They don't even go out with a set list. So it was just cool to being able to watch people who like have done music for a living for so long and, have created such like a large fan base and just really made such a name for themselves. It was really inspirational.
I don't know if it was just the show that I was at that was in our market or if it was by design, but that show in particular, they turned on all the house lights and then went, oops, wait, we forgot to play break stuff. And then everyone was out on stage with the house lights up. Was that something they did every time? Or was
Yep.
that just that
Yeah.
one show? Oh, they did it every time.
They were like, they would turn on all the house lights. And I think that was their way of saying, like, we're not doing an encore. This is what you get. And then everyone from the tour package would just go out and have fun. Um, yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, I can see you in the background rapping along and stuff, having a good
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, the guys would like piggyback each other and then you know, actually like mosh and like try to break stuff. So it was cool.
So cool to hear and interesting that they did that all the time. I felt like that seemed too obvious, but maybe it was just that one time. But no, it was a set thing. Love it.
Hmm.
Love it. And Emma, I appreciate all the time. Last thing I got to hit you with, we're an old school radio station. We do a feature called Mandatory Metallic every night at 10 p.m., which you're going to be a part of. Metallica fan? Are you?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I grew up on Metallica. I would say probably my favorite era is I love like thrash metal, so I'd say like Ride the Lightning.
See, that's where I was going to lead to. I've been having this debate this year. Me and my buddy are debating the greatest Metallica album, and that's my buddy's pick is Ride the Lightning, where I come down on the next one, Master of Puppets.
They're both good. I would say Ride the Lightning is probably more my style.
Why? Just because of the aggressiveness?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the riffs are awesome. And that was also like that was the first Metallica that really resonated with me.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Do you have a favorite song off of that album we could play for you on Mandatory Metallica?
Um, is there a title track?
Yeah, there is. Ride the Lightning.
Yeah, just the title track, Ride the Lightning.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for the time, Emma, and thank you for the great music and hope to see you out there at the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.